Welcome back, viewers. This is Tommy from A Vision Media Broadcast. Once again, we have another special show. This is Glenn Aure. This man is the Bay Area music legend who shaped hip hop and R&B for decades. This man is on the show right now. DJ. He has all types of. He wear all types of hats, man. This is him right now. Here's Glenn Aure. How you feeling, DJ Glenn Aure? What's up, man?
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me, Tommy.
Oh man, it's a pleasure, man. I know we tried it. We met up the first time, we did something, but now this is the second go around. And I thank you for allowing this to happen again.
Oh man. We had to make it do it right. So yeah, if we had to do a second time, then yeah, all good, man.
That's right, man. And we want the fans to know your background. So I want to walk down memory lane and you can share some things with them about who you are and what you do. But
all
first, the Bay Area. Can you tell me how was it in the Bay Area coming up, man, as a kid?
For me, born and raised in the Bay Area, so that's all I really knew. I mean, obviously later on in life, I moved out, but one thing I could say about the Bay is very diverse, ethnicities, and then even just different cultures, from the foods to music. Obviously, even before my time, there were greats that came out of the Bay, funk bands or whatnot. So growing up, I was exposed to all that type of music. I'm a youngest of 6 kids, so my older brothers and sisters, they had vinyl records and collected 45s and all that stuff. So as a young kid, I would hear them play all that music on the stereo system that we had in the house. Remember that one stereo system that we all had growing up. So I think that was key for me. I think that gave me my musical palette. That later spawned me to, wanted to learn how to DJ and whatnot.
Okay, so that was the one for you right there that influenced you, right? To DJ.
Yep.
And out in the Bay Area, I know that there's many MCs. Can you tell me which MCs out there that influenced you to get into the DJ world or to even get into hip hop?
I think that was later on. I mean, early on when I DJ'd, I started when I was like 12 years old. So this was like, this was like, like 84 or whatnot. So hip hop was still new. Like during that time was a lot of the electro stuff, the Planet Rocks, African Bambaataa, Soul Sonic Force. So that was kind of the early hip hop stuff. There wasn't too much like hip hop as we call it today, but that was kind of the early taste of hip hop early on. And again, like I said, growing up, listening to my brothers and sisters' records, it was eclectic. They listened to everything from soul, R&B, disco at the time, pop music, So I had a taste of all that, and I just love music. I think like we say, music is universal. So
that's right.
If it sounded great, I loved it. I didn't classify it at this or that, So even like jazz and funk. Stuff like that, like I was exposed to all of that, so I think that they gave me that early appetite. And like I said, it was like 83 or 84. I think it was one of the MTV shows, and it was Herbie Hancock doing Rocket, and I remember Grandmaster D.
Grandmaster D.
Yep, and he was doing and that right there, I was like, what the hell is that?
That blew your mind, right? Just
I was like, man. What? I knew about DJing or whatnot, but that right there was like sold it for me. I was like, I want to learn how to do that. So, I think I was 12 at the time, and we had one turntable. My good neighbor, who was like my best friend at the time, he was my age, so same thing. So what we did, we went, as an early DJ. If you DJ, in the 80s, like probably the first DJ mixer you went to Radio Shack. Those don't exist anymore.
That's right.
Radio Shack was the electronic store that sold every goods and everything, and there was this thing called the Realistic Mixer, 2-channel with a crossfader. I think it was like $69. We scrapped up our lunch money. We got that, and then we put the turntable together with the mixer, and then we took the records that my brothers and sisters had. He had some, so and that's kind of how I learned how to DJ. Like no one taught me. I kind of self-taught myself.
You taught yourself how to DJ,
just I think it was just matching beats. You knew that, like, okay, this is a fast record, this one's slower, so you got to find records that are kind of in that same tempo, and then from there, just I don't know. I guess I had that knack of learning how to match beats, and that's kind of how I got my start DJing.
Well, what was so amazing to me is that you learned how to play drums at was it age 9 or 8?
9. So I actually contribute drums probably to help me with DJing, because obviously with drumming it's all about timing and measures and notes. So I already kind of knew that in the back of my mind. And even with drummings, it was self-taught as well. I would my brother had a drum set in the garage, so when he was at school, high school or whatnot, I would come home and then from my school, and then the hours alone. So I would put the speaker inside the garage, and then I put like one of the records, and I remember it was the group Asia. It was like a rock band, Asia, like Heat of the Moment. And then I would put it on. I'd run back and get on the drums, and then I would just like kind of like play along with the record. And essentially that's how I like learned how to play drums. But then it kind of like taught me timing and syncopation and things like that, which later I think when I started to learn how to DJ, it was kind of like, well, it's basically the same concept. So I think that's like learned quicker than most people.
And as a DJ, you seem to deal with a lot of artists, right? Are there any artists in the Bay Area that you DJ for?
Not necessarily DJ for. I mean, later on when I did get to KMEL and was running things over there, like, we got to meet a lot of them in person. And obviously we'll get into it later, like the history of KMEL. But man, like I said, the Bay Area is rich with history of artists. And at the time in the 90s, like we always call it the golden era of hip hop.
I call it, that's the golden. It is the golden era of hip hop. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's gonna like claim this and that. I mean, I would say like that late 80s, like from like 86 on to like mid 90s. Like I would say that's like that golden era. But like I said early on, like the Bay was so rich with talent, so it was great for KMEL to actually start playing. We were responsible for like helping break a lot of those Bay Area artists that are still relevant today. The E40s of the world, the Too Shorts, then a lot of big classics still today. The Loonies, I Got Five on It.
That's right.
Matt Faze, like that was all stuff we played before they even got record deals. So
like for now, are you still doing anything now as far as like doing parties or events and stuff like that?
Yeah, funny enough, we're kind of getting back into that. Obviously, I do a syndicated radio show every week, so we're like close to 10 markets now across the country.
Oh wow! Okay.
So I record and farm out a show that gets played in these radio markets. But just more recently, just little events here and there. I started doing. Next thing we got some gigs lined up. I'll be in Vegas next month, doing the Foundation Room in the Mandalay Bay. So little gigs here and there. But my focus is really just the production aspect of it. I still DJ. I DJ on Twitch. I still try to do production. So now, like, we have a Bandcamp account where we're selling some of my remixes and flips there. So just trying to diversify. Like, obviously, let the craft that I learned as DJing open other doors for me as well. So,
well, that's deep, man. That's deep. And I have to let everybody know. Can you tell me about the Battle of the DJs? You was the winner of the Battle of the DJs, correct?
Yeah. To kind of go back to the story. So obviously early on I learned how to DJ at 12, and during my teenage years, doing the little house parties, the middle school dances, things like that. So I was doing that. And then around I was like 16, 17, I really loved the DJing aspect of it. So, and at the time I was like wanted to learn more of the production side of it. So at the time I got like a 4-track recorder, which allows you to record like more than just like 2 turntables at a time. And then I remember I got like a sampler and drum machine. So I was already kind of like messing around with like drum machines, like a SP1200, MPC 3000, things like that. So I had like an early start on that. So that was about 16, 17. I ended up making 2 like records with a turntablist DJ D Style. If people know like Q-Bird and Shortcut, like D Style. So we made like 2 little scratch DJ records, fresh out of high school. So we did that.
Right.
And then it was at that time that KMEL, the big station in the Bay Area. So if you're obviously from the West Coast or even the Bay, KMEL. And anybody like for you, East Coast or whatnot, it'll be the equivalent of you saying like Hot 97 New York. So everybody knows Hot 97 New York. So
in
the music industry in early 90s, it was we call it the labels call it the bookends of the country. So you had Hot 97, New York on, East Coast side, and KMEL, San Francisco on the West Coast. So we were like the two pillars of hip hop radio at the time, like, because it was new. Like there was no hip hop. Yeah, early 90s, like it was still pop music. So KMEL and like a Hot 97 were probably some of the first, stations. There was like a couple other stations around the country. There was probably like 5 key stations in those early 90s that were kind of that early blueprint of what we call hip hop radio today. Like back then, there wasn't like, how today is number one for hip hop and R&B, or number one for hip hop. Yeah, those are like the slogans that like all these stations across the country use. But back then, like, we had to create that. We were I would say we were responsible and were the blueprint for that. So for me, I was like, man, KMEL, you listen to some of the DJs at the time, and cats like Cameron Paul, Michael Erickson, Alex Mejia, those were like my heroes. I was still in high school at the time. And the year before I won, it was like King Tech won, and then that's kind of spawned the King Tech.
King Tech won.
Awesome. Yeah. So that kind of helped them, if it wasn't for that got them in the door, which eventually led the Wake Up Show with Sway, that was like their path. So the following years, 91, I sent in a demo, and fortunate for me, I was one of 5 finalists. So we all went to one of the clubs last night. You had like 15 minutes
to play.
Yep, 15 minutes. What you got to do. So just practice. I had my stuff down, and fortunate for me, I won that night. So I was crowned the champion. And part of winning, I got 2 1200s, which was great. I was
wow, 2 1200s.
Yeah,
okay. Like, that's old school, man.
Yeah. So I was like, oh man, I get another pair of 1200s. And then they gave me like a little guest spot on KMEL. So I was doing like Saturday nights at midnight. So, but for me, I was just happy to like be on the radio. I had my foot in the door, and to be on like a legendary station like that. So at first I was like, okay, I was just soaking it all in. And then eventually for me, like, cause I said earlier, I was doing like a lot of the production work, like on the 4-track and like my sampler and things like that. Like I was just like, every time I would do my mix, it was like a 45-50 minute mix that aired every week, but it would take me like maybe all week to do it. I would start like Sunday night, and I wouldn't even finish to maybe like Thursday afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah. It would be like maybe like the equivalent of 30 man hours you put in to make like a 45-minute mix. So,
wow, that's quite interesting, because as a DJ, if you work inside of a radio station, you get to break a lot of records, from artists. And I know that you did go through Capitol Records, and you did help them break records, help artists break records. Can you give me a few names of those who you broke at the station?
Well, collectively, we can go back to KMEL. Like we can go to Capitol, after fact. But let's talk about KMEL.
Okay.
Big part of the history of the Bay. So, like I said, I got there at 91, and initially, I was just doing the mix show stuff on the weekend. But at the time, I was like, I wanted to learn the aspect of radio, so I was like a sponge. So I started going there more just to hang out, to see like, the ins and out of how radio operates on a daily basis. So
that's right.
So I started like hanging out in the programming side of things. Programming meaning like, who's responsible for picking the music, things like that. So so eventually, like, we'll fast forward, like eventually I became the music director of KMEL in like 96. I also did mornings with Sway from like 94 to 96. Yeah. Well, they had their Wake Up Show. Yep. Everybody knows Sway, who's on Sirius now and who's on MTV, but he got his start at KMEL back in the day, like with us, like in 1990. And then, fortunate for me, it was like 93. He asked me to there was a spin-off show of the Wake Up Show called the 10 O'Clock Bomb. So we did it like twice a week. And then we basically were playing all the new release hip hop. So just imagine, like
the 10 O'Clock Bomb, you said?
Yep, we were playing all that. So it was like a little spin-off of the Wake Up Show. But it was just me and Sway. We did it for 10 to 12, 2 hours, but everything that was just out. So so just imagine everything that dropped in like those early 90s. Everything from Wu-Tang Clan to Biggie to Nas. So
Third
imagine
base,
we
yeah.
were getting that stuff like test pressings, like even before the vinyl was even shipped out, like we get the white labels or I don't know if you're familiar with they're called acetates. So acetates are like even they're shaped like a record, but
Acetate.
obviously vinyl is that plastic.
Yeah,
Acetate is it's like metal. And so it's basically like a record, but what it is, it's like before they actually press thousands and thousands of the vinyls, that's kind of like their test, like to make sure it sounds right or correctly. But then they'll only make a few pieces. So labels would do is like, all right, we have maybe 5 acetates. Let's
yeah.
get it to like the 5 key people. So we go to like a Funk Master Flex in New
Oh,
York, us
okay,
in San
okay,
Francisco, someone in
okay.
LA, whatnot. So
So what is
and then
spread it out?
that is only good for like 3 plays. So it's just one of those like, oh man, we have like the new Wu-Tang Clan on the, so it would be like, okay, we got to play it. So we would have to play it, but I would record it just so we have a backup of it or whatnot. But like I said, we were fortunate enough to get a lot of that stuff early.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
even, like I said, with the Bay, like before like E40 like really broke, like we met up with him in a park and he gave us vinyl and, so I would say we helped him like really break that, like all those Bay Area classics that you hear today, the Loonies, I Got Five on it, the Two Shorts, and then like a Mac Dre. Man, there was so much. Like I said, during the '90s, the Bay was so rich of talent, and a lot of these people we played even if they didn't have record deals. Like our motto is like, if it's good and
And play
it's
it.
great, it don't matter if you're signed or not. It didn't have to be a major artist, and we were great. We loved that like these artists were coming from the Bay, so that was that we looked for those type of records or whatnot. So we like I said, we were responsible for a lot of those Bay Area acts. And later when I became music director at KMEL around 96, 97, like I was dealing with the major record labels on a daily basis, and a lot of times they would like fly me down to LA, or they would come down to San Francisco, sit with me and play like the upcoming artists, or hey, we're gonna drop what I remember it was Common, and they were playing me some of the cuts, and they didn't know what lead single to go with, and I remember they played me The Light. I'm like, there it is,
Oh,
that
okay,
so
yeah. The light.
yeah, so then boom, they came out with that as their lead single. But I mean, obviously they probably talked to other people too, but I would say like it was great for us to have that input and to see that okay, they did that. So like I said, there's countless, and again, I don't want to take credit like maybe I won't say like I did it, but KMEL did it, and that was part of my crew. So or even my DJs, a lot of the records we broke through the mix show, because a lot of those records had to start from the street in the clubs, and then before I can really play it like on KMEL. So a lot of times we would get these records and we would blow it up in the mix show first to kind of develop it there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then next, oh wow, we're getting a lot of phone requests for it. So then from there, like, all right, I'm going to put it in regular rotation, and then it builds from there.
From there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I have to let the viewers know. I'm sorry, you can say what you're going to say.
No, go ahead.
I have to let the viewers know the people who record you have broken, which is Snoop Dogg, West Side Connection, Chingy, Latoya Luckett, Dilated Peoples, and many more. These people you have helped really their career because you broke the records, correct?
Yeah, well, those artists were when I got to the label side. Those were that was at Capitol Records. So yeah, I mean, obviously it was a team effort, but when I was at when I did leave KMEL, so for the viewers, I was at KMEL in San Francisco from 1991 to 2001. So like I said, that 10 years, it just kind of was like, I was on that ladder. So I started off as a DJ, like I said, and then, I got to work with Sway. We ended up doing like mornings from 95 to 97. So we were doing that like 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then from there, that he left to go to LA, then MTV. And that's when I became music director. But I mean, pretty much anything that was blew up in the 90s, like, KMEL was pretty much either had their hand in it or helped break it. Like, even like we're big on R&B as well. It wasn't just hip hop. So, artists like D'Angelo, we were like probably one of the first stations to play Brown Sugar. Maxwell, when Maxwell first had his ascension, like we were like one of the first in the country to play it. And we had like one of the first shows. We called it, we dubbed it House of Soul. and then it was all about
House of Soul.
Yeah, and that was like like I said, the first House of Soul we did was with Maxwell when he, before he really blew up. So it was an intimate show about like, about 500 people, but that was great about House of Soul. It was like real intimate for our viewers to see these artists up and close. But I remember, a lot of the R&B acts we helped break as well. So man, like I'm just having a brain fart, but man, it was countless artists, man. So that was the radio side, and eventually I felt like I was outgrowing my time, and corporate, it was getting to me. We're owned by Clear Channel, which eventually became iHeart, and obviously we all know iHeart is the biggest radio chain in the country. And I mean, I'm not going to knock it, but obviously the radio landscape has changed over the years. It wasn't what it was back then. So
it was different.
Yeah, it's kind of cookie cutter now, or it is what it is. It's a business, like anything. But back then, we were really developing hip hop. Like we were really, like I said, there was like probably 5 key stations around the country that was like the blueprint of making what hip hop is today. Like now it's like you're in any state and you turn on the car radio or whatever, and you're gonna find a hip hop station. Back then, there wasn't hip hop in every market, wasn't. So like I said, I was fortunate enough to be, like we call it, that golden era of hip hop, or just hip hop culture, just the emergence of that. And
that's the golden era for you, man. The golden era is one of the best eras for me, because all I did was listen to EPMD. Public Enemy was one of my favorite groups of all time. Let's talk about, when you talk about Sway and Tech, have you ever got a chance to work with D-Wise from the Bums, D-Wise and Evo?
I never worked with them personally, but like, because like obviously the connection was Sway and them, seeing them at the station or whatnot, and obviously they did get signed as well. They got signed to Priority Records, so they like obviously helping them trying to break their records. So we played their records in the mix and whatnot at KMEL, and then shout out even King Tech. Like, obviously he's a great producer. He was like, people don't give him the credit like they realize, they, a lot of that early Sway and Tech stuff, he did all the production of it. So, and even I, like, at the time I didn't know, before I even met them at KMEL, like, oh man, King Tech's dope, whatnot. And then, then to finally like meet them and to be like, like homies, seeing them at the station, seeing them and working alongside with them, man, it was just like a blessing, so.
Wow, and it is, man, working with all those people like that too, and having connections also. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about things? Some people still do it, the scratching, but how do you feel about that? Like, it's not original no more. Everything is digital.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a purist, I love vinyl. I still have vinyl, whatnot, or just that sound of that snap, crackle, pop you put on the vinyl and you hear that.
I love that.
But, there's two sides of the story. I embrace technology, and man, like, I love what Serato became. Like now, like you can have all your music like in your computer, which is great. Like, now, like, we're old, man. I'm trying to carry like 10 crates of records, because back in the 90s, like it was about vinyl. So if I'm doing a club gig, and even if I'm only doing a guest spot for like an hour and a half or 2 hours at most, you want to be prepared. So I would have to get like 5 the long milk crates of records, just so I, have the different genres of music. So imagine doing that week in, week out for years, right? But now, like, you just basically bring a laptop,
and everything is on a laptop. Everything is uploaded to a laptop.
And that's where, like, you get into the battles where, like, oh well, it's so easier for today's DJ, because all they got to do is just buy a laptop with a big hard drive and ask their homies library connection, and there you go. Which I kind of frown on that, because when we grew up as a DJ, like, you had to go to the record store.
That's right.
And buy that record. So if that, I remember taking the bus, as a teenager to Berkeley, and they had the record stores there, and then like seeing like LL, like Rock the Bells, and I gotta have that, so $4.99, for one record, but you need 2 because you want to like go back and forth, Rock the Bells. So you got to get 2 of like those certain records. So But now, like I said, like it's I think that kind of hurts in a way, like because I think if you were a DJ early on, it was a skill set. You had to really learn it, so
That's
you had
right.
to learn from scratch. There was no cheat code. There was no like whatnot. Like you just get the music and play. Because even now, like with controllers, it's not even turntables no more. It's like those, it's like a mixer with like two like fake
Yeah,
turntables,
yeah,
and that's supposed to be the turntable. But there's even a thing called sync button where you basically hit that button and then like it like synchronizes the songs to match beats together.
yeah.
So it's
Like
cheating.
it's so easy now. It's
Yeah, where
cheating,
like before you
basically.
physically had to learn, okay, if I'm mixing two records, one's kind of slower or another, so you have to know which one to speed up or slow down,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
so that takes acquires like hours of like hearing it or whatnot. But now like some guys just press sync button and then boom, like they don't even have to worry about like matching the beat because it does it for you. I'm like, ugh,
It's cheating, man.
yeah, I mean, I can call it out, but I mean, I get it. It's a convenience, But yeah, I'm a purist.
Yeah,
I learned on turntables, so I think if you learned on turntables and vinyl back then, you appreciate what it has become.
that's
I
right.
mean, yeah,
That's
don't
right.
get me wrong. Like even now, like with like yeah, I have Serato and like yeah, my music is like in my system, but it's music I've had for years, so I
Mhm.
collected that music, things like that. So it wasn't like I what decided one day I'm going to be a DJ, bought a computer and asked the homie, hey, can I copy your terabyte of songs, So yeah, it wasn't like that. I really like collected my catalog since
Yeah.
over the years. Some of my rips that are MP3s now are vinyl rips of my brothers and sisters records of the
Okay.
70s. Yeah.
They vinyl. Okay, they're vinyl
Yeah.
rip now.
Yeah, that I've kept their
Wow.
records, like over the years as I DJs, I kept their records, and obviously they moved out of house, so I just kept them. So yeah, some of the records I still remember, like has like their names on it, my brothers and sisters' name on the album. So I'm like,
Wow.
oh yeah, so it's kind of neat, like what 40 something years later, basically, yeah. So
That's
yeah,
dope, man. That's dope. We talked about the golden era.
mhm.
With I mentioned Public Enemy. You know, you take it back to even KMD, third base.
Peach Fuzz,
Yeah,
KMD, Third
yeah,
Base.
yeah, yeah. We take it back to that. Since you're a DJ, you are a DJ. How do you stay up to date with the latest music? I know we mentioned the golden era, but how do you kind of stay with the latest trends? How you stay up to date with that?
Like now there's like certain sites, like back then, like when you DJs would get records, there was like we call them record pools. So you would have to like apply, and if you get accepted in, you would pay like a monthly fee. But then these record pools would get their vinyl from all the record labels, and they would get like boxes of records, and then from there the record label would like you get like a little slot that you come once a week and you pick up your vinyl. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
how we kept up with records. And then obviously when I was at KMEL, you get on record mailing lists. So all because labels, of course, want you to have their stuff. So
I
I thought I thought that was the greatest thing. Like, oh my god, I got on a record.
no, no,
I'm
no,
getting
no, real quick,
records.
real quick. I'm sorry, but real quick. Did you have to pick your records, or they give you records
No,
to
they just
have,
they just give it to you. Yeah,
but they give it
I
to
mean,
you?
obviously, there might be they're shitty ones, but obviously you're getting
Yeah,
like all the good ones
you
that
get
are
the good ones.
out at the time. So I got in a record pool like before I got to KMEL, like as when I was like 16, 17. So I thought that was great. But then I remember when I finally got to KMEL and they were like, "Oh, give us your address. We'll send them to all the record labels." So then next thing you know, I'm getting mail at the house, and I'm like, oh wow, and it's like
Yeah, yeah,
all the
yeah.
late, you're getting it even before like you hear it on the radio. So I'm like, oh, so getting all that stuff,
At first hand, you get it first hand.
yeah, and then from there, you start getting calls from the record labels. So because then they
Yeah,
start wanting to promote their records to you. Oh, hey, I sent you the new whatever. What do you think of it? So and that's kind of how I started like getting the relationships like dealing with the record labels or whatnot. So when I was at KMEL, every day I was talking to record labels about like their projects or whatnot, the
yeah.
plans, things like that. And eventually, the long term effect of that is, it's relationship building because you
That's
never
right.
know
That's right.
what
That's right.
doors may open. And
Yeah,
because there was an opportunity in 2001 for me to like move to LA and go to Capitol Records, that was attributed from me just having the relationships I had with the record labels at the time. And I remember they said, "Hey, would you want to come to the record side?" I was like, "Yeah, I've never, I've never done it. I've always been in the Bay Area all my life." And like, "Yeah, you'll be fine." I was like, "I don't know how to do radio promo," but they're like, "Well, you know what it is because you talk to the labels every day. It's what we're doing to you." So yeah, that I kind of had to like do a 360 when I got to Capitol Records in 2001, because when I went there, then I was national director of Rhythm Radio, which would be like the hip hop radio stuff. So yeah, so then that's where I then had to start calling radio across the country, promoting what we had, and those were the acts that we had: the Snoops, the Chingies, the LaToya Luckett's,
Snoop Dogg,
Dilated Peoples,
yeah.
West Side Connection. We had that. So so it was great, because obviously when I worked in radio for 10 years, doing the radio side of it, breaking those artists in the Bay Area was great, right? So when you know, like, oh yeah, we were first to play it in the Bay, and shout out like the competitor station, Wild 94.9, that was our competitor. But between the two of us really playing the records, that's how a lot of these records broke. I'm going to toot our horn and say we played it first or whatnot. And some records we did first, like straight up we did. And
some records you did.
Some records we played at the same time, but collectively we broke a lot of those artists in the Bay. So I enjoyed that part of my career there. But then even on the record side, the label side, you're a team. So my department is just one part of the whole bigger picture. When you're a major record label, like now you're working with a machine. Like, so radio promo is the only one, that there's like video department, there's street, there's marketing, there's, at the time, like socials and all that stuff was starting to finally emerge. So all that was, new. I remember every Wednesday we'd have a meeting with the president of Capitol Records, and here we are, all of us, like, room
all together.
Yep, about 25 of us, all the different departments, or anything that had information that helps, for the artists or whatnot. Then we would just have like a 3-hour meeting, just going through each artist, and president, okay, what's going on with this artist, and then all right, what's going on the streets? Well, we got this, that, and then radio, what we're doing? Okay, we picked the single, we're gonna start promoting it, whatever the plans was. But then when you actually see a record that breaks from the start, it's like, wow, you kind of like, wow, kind of like, put that feather in your cap and like, oh yeah, I had my hand in that as well. So, even like a Chingy, like I remember, at first we had the Right There record, and we got him, oh, this, kind of doing something like big show. Yeah, Chingy, Right There. And then it went number one, and it was like, oh wow, blew up. And then from there we dropped the second single. The second single, we took it number one, and then even the third single. So we went like 3 number ones, back to back, just a trifecta. Then I remember like radio stations wanted them for like their concerts and their shows, and getting him like $50K a show type thing back then. That was like
back then. I know when you said Chingy, for instance, you said Right There record, you kind of broke that.
Yeah.
How is that? Like, how does that happen when an artist needs you to play a record? Do you guys get paid? Do you ask for a fee for them to bring their record in? Or when the record gets big, do you guys get like some kind of contribution for breaking the record? How does that work?
No, there's no, like, well, for Capitol, like, that's my job. So I'm not getting extra money. Like if a record does break, whatnot, obviously, like if it goes number one, like, you get the little accolade of, hey, we took it number one, feather in the cap, bragging rights, or like little things like plaques. I've had my fair share of like record plaques, the gold record plaques, the platinum plaques that artists get, like to commemorate like, 1 million sales, or gold would be like 500,000 sales, things like that. So, you get awards like that, like those from some of the perks. And even when I was at radio, like, I had my fair share amount of getting some of these record plaques as like rewards for helping break some of these artists. So, that's kind of something you kind of like, oh, wow, I was able to get, something to put on the wall in the office or things like that. So
I look at it as a business. I look at it as an artist have an album or
Mhm.
song, uh, a record that they need it to be played.
Mhm.
Do they go through? Do their team go through the station management to get it played? Because sometimes I'm guessing you can do like, all right, I give you 3 G's if you play my album for 2 weeks. Like,
Mhm.
does that go on? Did it go on back then, or you really don't know how that worked?
I mean, if we're gonna be speaking honestly here, like like man, it. There's always that dark side of the music industry where,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there was, we called it payola.
Okay.
I mean, it was going on in the '60s and '70s, like or like the '80s, like even back then they weren't even. It was about drugs. It wasn't even about like money. Like people were getting like 8 balls of cocaine and things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Partying.
yeah, yeah.
That was like in the '80s or whatnot. But I heard stories of like that's how things got down. Like some of the radio station guys or whatnot, and whatever. I'm not going to call out, put
Yeah, yeah,
nobody.
yeah, yeah. But we know that
Yeah, but yeah,
there is a
it go
dark
down.
side.
Yeah, like even when I got
Yeah,
to radio, you have to learn the game. So uh, you would see certain things go on, but I always looked at it too, like like you have to be pure because sometimes when that gets involved, and you know, you might really a record that shouldn't be getting played is getting played. Why? Because of money there or
that's
whatever.
right.
So
Because of the side deal. Yeah,
yeah, side deal. But
yeah.
like, well, I think what was great for us at KMEL early on, like hip hop was new. Like we were creating it. So there was, we didn't have no manual or whatnot. We were just kind of going off of like,
You're going with the flow. You
yeah,
just
like
going.
and it it was all contributed from the DJ part of what we were doing. So we were we were ahead of the curve as DJs. We knew it was hot in the clubs or
Yeah,
whatnot. So when we were playing these records in the clubs, we would go back to KMEL and be like, "Yo, this is like blowing up." I was still the DJ then before I became music director. So I would go back to my program director, like, "Yo, this new record I'm playing in the club is, man, I think it's going to be something." So then we would call music meetings. We would sit down with like the guys at KMEL, like 4 or 5 of us in the programming department, and we would play records like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And then collectively we might be, "Hey, let's put these 2 records in rotation. Let's see how it develops."
yeah,
And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So, but we give it a shot. But that was the real way of doing it. Let's try it, and let's see how our listeners.
yeah. This
Um,
how it
yeah,
do. That's
and
the
then from
point.
there, like the metrics we had back then was basically calling, like phone calls, requests,
Yeah,
and then like
yeah,
our research, like playing in the club, and then maybe even sales. I would look at sound scan, things like that back then. Now the metrics are man, there's so many different metrics that labels use, artists use. Um, you know, Social media is a metric now. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like you could
yeah.
look at artist social media and like look at what they're doing or whatnot. But we didn't have that stuff back then, so I only can rely on certain metrics. But now it's great for an artist because now
It's
radio will
easier now.
always be around, but
Yeah,
now there's so many other outlets other than radio
that's
where you
right.
can
That's
break.
right. It's so many avenues. Yeah,
Yeah, you can break in other platforms and not even be on like commercial radio anymore.
that's
Which
right.
is
That's
yeah,
right.
which before every you had to be on radio. Like you had to put all your eggs in the basket, hoping that you can break on FM radio
Yeah,
to
yeah,
like maybe get you a deal. Like if you're a independent artist, like that's how I'm gonna get my record deal. If I'm getting my record played like in my hometown, and crazy as it sounds, like we were responsible for getting a lot of those Bay Area guys that did get signed. If it wasn't for us playing their record at KMEL, so
that's right.
and yeah,
That's right.
so yeah.
So the DJs definitely get rewarded for their work that they put in
Yeah.
because it's like you guys are a piece of the puzzle. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? That put it together. What would you say is one of the most important skills someone must have to be a good DJ?
Knowledge of music. I mean, it's
Okay.
especially now. I think the term open format, like open format DJ, is like a DJ that pretty much can go through each genre seamlessly, like in
Mm,
one given like time, like in within like a 2 hour set, he may go from hip hop to like funk to like reggaeton to then
yeah.
like disco, because that's kind of how like the listening taste of of listeners are today. It's not just like one thing. I only like hip hop, or I only
That's
like
right.
slow songs. Like
That's right.
everybody's taste is different, but like a lot of people like a little bit of everything. Like myself. I was exposed to all different formats growing up. So I think today's genre, like that's what it is today. Like just a bit of everything. If it sounds good, they're gonna like it. Whether it's
Right.
hip hop, pop, and there's a lot of cross pollination of genres now. Like before hip hop was hip hop. Now hip hop is like hip hop artists are doing collabs with pop artists, or with country artists and hip hop. Man. So it's great to see that. So, but I think being a DJ is able to like know all the different genres of music and really know it. Like I think that's what I mean. Like me growing up, or any DJ growing up, learning on vinyl and like on turntables, like you really had to understand the music, and you're buying the music. So of course you're buying what you need and the
That's
right
right.
type of music.
Right.
But I think now, like some of the new DJs, like like they get a terabyte of music from their friends, but they don't really know the music. So they're just kind of like, playing like a jukebox. And
Yeah.
I think that over time, they'll get the music. But I think early on, like they might not be familiar with, like, especially if they're younger, like, how you expect to, if you're only like 20 now, but how do you expect to know, like, funk and soul of the
Yeah.
70s,
Yeah.
early 80s, if
Yeah.
no one
Right.
really taught you that. So you have to then go back and learn the history. And that's another thing. Go back and learn the history.
That's how you
Even
do it.
when I was young, I went back and studied the guys before my time. The DJ Jazzy Jeffs, DJ Scratch of EPMD, like hearing their scratches, and Joe Cooley out on the West Coast, riding on Joe Cooley, like his scratches still, like are like stuff that people say learn that scratch today. But 30, 40 years later, like that one scratch he did back in the early, like mid 80s, like, that's still a staple of like what the foundation of like scratching and things like that today is. So, yeah. So I say that's some good advice for an upcoming DJ. Like learn the music and then learn the history, like learn people that were before you, so you can understand, where it's going, so then you
Right.
can become that veteran later on in life and pass the torch to then that next generation of DJs that are younger than you.
That's right.
And that's
Well,
what I'm
yeah.
trying to do.
That's right. It is. Okay. And what part did Cameron Paul and Michael Erickson play in your role as being a DJ? Play.
Oh man, huge. Like again, those were like I already had learned how to DJ at that point, but hearing them on the radio as like a 13, 14-year-old, it was inspiring. And
Yeah.
back then that's what made me get like the 4-track, because I could like mix two turntables, and that's what most DJs did. But they were some of the early pioneers of what we call multi-track mixing, where like you would hear like their mix, but then it was pre-recorded, but then it would sound like 4 or 5 things going on. You would hear like an instrumental of one record, but then like a cappella of a different record on top, but then it'd go right into like another record. So at first I didn't know it was multi-tracking. I didn't know it was like a machine. I was thinking like, how do they mix so quick? Like, how do you have like 4 things going on? You only got 2 hands and 2 records. Like, then when I figured out, oh, it's like layering. So you would like take that 4-track and you would record like, and that's why it would take me like 30 hours to make like a 45-minute mix, because it would all be like putting pieces of puzzle together. Like I would start, and then like it would be like a instrumental of one record, right? And then track 2 would be like the acapella of another record. Track 3 would be like maybe like a bass line from a different record. So then all of a sudden it's like what we call like a mashup today, right? But then you're physically making it, and then like the 4-track, me scratching. So essentially that's kind of like how I learned how to multi-track. So when I would hear like cats like Cameron Paul, Michael Erickson, Alex Mejia, Theo Mizuhara, like those were some of like the early guys on KMEL before I got there. Like I was just like inspiring me, so that what fuel my fire to be like, hey, I want to do that, but at the same time, like I want to create my own style, so that I have my own flavor. And I think when I did get to KMEL and was able to finally like, all right, well, I'm gonna make my own, forced, multi-track mixes. that kind of like got my name out there. Like now, like people started saying like, "Oh wow, did you hear Glenn Aure on the radio?" And essentially that was what I was known for, like the production that I did, because it wasn't your ordinary like just true turntable mix. It was kind of like, I would say it was almost like a movie. It was like a full production, because I would like take like, I had a sampler, so you could sample anything. So I would like record movie scenes, from VHS tape into my sampler, and then like run that audio piece over like a hip hop track, and then so just creative things. And I think it was just like, I was young. I was like 19 years old, so I wasn't doing nothing. So if it took like 30, 40 hours to make like some like masterpiece mix that airs on the radio, then I was doing it. So I was doing that like for the first year, just trying to get my name out. It helped, because obviously then from there they gave me my big break. All right, let's get you on other than Saturday night at midnight. So then I started doing like 5 o'clock drive time,
evening shows.
Yeah, prime time, and then I did, and then the pinnacle was when like they said, okay, Sway hit me. It was like, hey, they want me to do the morning show, and he's like, I want you to be my DJ, so I want you to like, play beats when I talk on the mic. I want you to cut up beats, so it's almost like a hip hop. Like I'm cutting up breaks, and then I mix like, and then it was unheard of. I mixed like 3 times in the morning. I mixed at like 5:30 in the morning before we started. I mixed from like 7 to 7:30. And then again from like 9 to 9:45. So it was just like, so every day, Monday through Friday. Then I still mix on Saturday. So I was on the air like 6 days a week, KMEL. So, the name got out there. So, and like I said, it helped me propel up the ladder to then become like music director later down the line.
Well, all your hard work paid off, because you're a legendary DJ right now. DJ Glenn Aure. Right.
There you go.
I got the last name correct. DJ Glenn Aure, the Bay Area music legend who shaped hip hop and R&B for decades. We have him on the show right now. I want to thank you for coming on to A Vision Media Broadcast. Can you please let the fans know, or the viewers know, how can they check out some of your music and see some of your live DJing?
Yeah, real easy. I have socials and all that. But probably the easiest, I have a website now. So DJ Glenn Aure, that's DJ, then GLENN, 2 N's, and then AURE.com, DJGlennAure.com. You can go there. You can get more of my story, of my history from radio to working at the record labels. There's links there from my others, from like my Instagram, things like that, and links for some other interviews. And then we also have DJs who know about Bandcamp, not even DJs, just anybody in general. We have a Bandcamp account now, so you can go to bandcamp.com, look up DJ Glenn Aure, and you can actually purchase some of my remixes there. I have about 15 loaded up there. I'm in the midst of loading up more, but yeah, like some of my remixes, which has DJ intros or whatnot. You can listen to them there, and then DJs that want to purchase it, you can go and purchase this directly from there. I try to do Twitch once a week as well, so people could see me live. So yeah, just try to keep busy. And again, like I said, I do a weekly syndicated radio show, and like we're up to like 9 markets now, everywhere from like the Bay Area to Austin to like Phoenix, places like that. So yeah, man. So just trying to keep busy there, and just everyday life as well. You know how it is. So I also want to shout out my manager, the Real Thai Tiger, who's my partner as well. We're trying to just really diversify the brand. So other than just it all starts from DJing, but like I wouldn't have never thought, like as a youngster, that DJing would eventually open the door to get me to radio, which then radio would just keep me in the radio industry. I mean, I'm going on 30 plus years now in the record industry.
Wow, okay, that's great.
Yeah, I started in 91. We're 30 plus years now doing it. So yeah, like I would know. Yeah, so this is this music is my life, as they say. Yeah, music is my life. So yeah, without music, I don't know. Music is my savior. So.
Wow, that's dope, man. That's dope. We have the legendary DJ Glenn Aure from the Bay Area. I want to thank you for that. I also want to give a shout out to BTP Music Group, my man Jeff Kwame over there. Kwame, he over there doing big things. Thank you for that, man. A Vision Media Broadcast. We're here with the legendary DJ Glenn. I want to thank you once again, man. Give you a salute. Hope that we can do this again, brother.
Anytime, just hit us up and we got you, bro.